Good evening once again, Jeopardy fans. This is hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel presented by thejeopardyfan.com. I'm Andy Saunders, and I am going to be moderating tonight's discussion as usual. We have 4 contestants from last week's games, a great number, and I'm looking forward to an excellent discussion. So let's get right to the introductions. First up, as always, I introduce in order of when you were introduced on the program. So because we actually have 2 people from Monday's game, I'll introduce you in introduction order. So my first introduction tonight, Tanya Obreiter. Thanks for joining us, Tanya.
Thank you for having me on your program.
And congratulations on your victories as well.
Thank you.
Also on tonight's panel, also playing on Monday night's game, Justin Braddock. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Our third panelist tonight from Thursday's game, Melanie Tannenbaum Hepler. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And last and certainly not least from Friday's game, Sam Spencer. Thank you very much for coming on live panel.
My pleasure.
And as always, you can, if you have a message for tonight's panel, you can leave one via Twitter using the hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel. We also have a YouTube chat, so you're welcome to use that as well. We have quite a few viewers starting out with us right now. So if you haven't watched Live Panel before, I hope you enjoyed the discussion. And if you have, I hope you enjoy this one. So, let's get right to it. Often I kind of jump around a bit, but, we actually have representatives from all 5 games here on tonight's panel. So I'm actually going to kind of go in some semblance of an order here. But before we get started with that, I think, Melanie, you mentioned to me that you had you kind of wanted to tell a story about your meeting Justin before the game started. So I think that that would be a good thing to open tonight's discussion with. So
Okay.
I'll let you tell that story.
I'm worried that it's not going to live up to however I built it. But Justin, I think I told you this when it happened. But so Justin was the first person that I met. We were both down. We were the first ones down in the lobby, which, by the way, if you have any idea about my usual punctuality, is actually surprising to literally everybody. But
Apparently we have more in common than we realized.
What?
Apparently you and I have more in common than we realized.
Yeah. So we both had the massive pile of extra clothes, and so we figured that we were going to the same place, and we started talking, and in my head I'm thinking, I've been watching the show my whole life, right? And I have notebooks and binders. Everyone saw my binders there, and files and cabinets and everything full of trivia that I've been collecting my entire life. This has been my life and my thing. And so I think, obviously no one prepared like I did. No one, everyone knows what's going on. They probably think it's an adorable thing. Oh, I'm going on a game show. No one prepared for Jeopardy like I prepared for Jeopardy. And then I'm sitting there in the lobby and I start talking to Justin. We're, doing small talking, getting to know each other. And then it very casually in the least, he wasn't showboaty. Justin's a very lovely, you're a great dude. So it was in a very non-showboaty way, but just talking about how, he's always been such a trivia person. He did this and he did that, and he, has this reputation with his friends, and they remember this, and it was all my, story of my life, right? And all of a sudden I had this moment where I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm not a special snowflake, and everyone prepared like I did. Oh my God, I am competing against a bunch of me's. And then we go in, so I'm obviously this guy is very prepared, and so he's gonna do great. And then he did do great, but he lost. And I remember sitting there and because we all sit there in the audience and watch, and I remember sitting there and watching it and thinking, oh my God, I had in my head, this guy was clearly gonna win because he was so prepared. I knew this. And it was the first moment that it really dawned on me that everyone there is there because they're a worthy opponent who got through all the hoops and is gonna be good. They know what they're doing. And it was the first time that it really sunk in, every game 2 people lose and only 1 person wins. And it's all, those 2 people that lose every game are people just like me that have been preparing for this their whole lives. And I had told people afterwards, I was Justin changed my life that day. You made my day so much better because I went on to lose my first game by like a lot. And having that experience was what made me immediately be like, it's a game. Like, it's a game that comes down to buzzer speed and luck of the draw and categories, and you either win it or you don't. But like, I can't view this as a referendum on my life or my intelligence or my preparation, because like everyone here, 2 people are gonna lose every game. And so like, I was telling everyone who would hear it, I was like, Justin losing that first game like made me okay with coping with everything. So I don't know. I know that people often watch this to try and get like an inside thought process on everything. And I don't know. I thought that might be one of the most helpful things that came out of that morning for me, was eventually being okay with losing, because it felt more like a game after I realized how much everyone had, was worthy of being there, and it just came down to game stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it was all to say, Justin, you're awesome.
We're all Harlem Globetrotters and no Washington Generals in that room.
Well, my main thing was I was just worried about dropping the F-bomb, so.
Well,
because I do that all the time when I watch it at home. When I get it wrong, it's like, oh.
Well, I don't think you succeeded in doing it, Justin. So.
Yeah. I was glad about that.
Well, if it helps, I know that something I can impart from the college championship panel I ran a few months back is that that panel, I learned that the sound editors are very, very good at their jobs. So even if you drop an F-bomb or two on the show, they will be able to cut your audio. So
I figured as much, but I just didn't want to do it on stage, because I know that would just kind of throw me and probably a lot of other people off.
I'm surprised that I didn't fall into that trap. I'm from New York originally, so like, not.
You could have worked that into your hometown howdy, right?
You want to possibly see
Who
us?
the F is
So, no, this one kind of is a question for Tanya and Justin. Neither of you had actually been to the studio before that game, right?
That was my first introduction to the studio.
Was you get there and you go through rehearsal and you haven't had a chance to watch the game be taped,
Yep.
and oh look, you've been called up first. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I got they send you back to the makeup chair again, and the makeup lady says, "Oh, are you upset about being called up first?" And I said, "Well, no, because this means I'll have tomorrow free to go to Disneyland for sure."
Ever the optimist.
Well, with mine, I was I was hoping that I'd be called later on in the day, because my folks were flying back in from Florida for my uncle's funeral, and so they were flying back in that morning, and we weren't sure if they're going to make it to the studio on time, and they at least got to see me up on stage, so I was at least happy about that. But they literally walked in. They were let in the doors just as we were standing out talking to Alex at the end. I was hoping that I would have been like in one of the later showings, just so that they'd be able to be there for the whole taping. But,
well, that's a bit of a sad story. I'm sorry to hear that.
But it was good though. I mean, my mom at least got to see me up on stage, so that's good. And they were both able to see the whole show when it aired on Monday. So,
speaking of seeing the whole show, I feel as I heard, Sam, you were not so lucky.
I was not. I'll say, and maybe as a lead into that, let me sort of tap into what Melanie was saying earlier, by saying that I think for her and I to connect, and we were able to connect, because basically the first thing that happened when I got onto this mysterious-looking vehicle that was parked in front of the hotel, which could have really been anything, I suppose. it looked like it might have been the terrorists from Back to the Future, which would prove to be significant during the day. But, the sort of nondescript looking vehicle, no exterior markings, but I get on and there are a bunch of people that are all dressed up and they have a bunch of extra clothes, and it's like, yeah, I think I'm probably in the right place. So I jump on and say, hey, I'm Sam from Champaign, Illinois. And lo and behold, Melanie breaks out with, oh, well, I used to live there. I got my PhD there. So, that really kind of broke the ice a little bit. And of course, has been well documented in other circles, other things that Melanie and I have in common, that we both tend to sweat profusely. So during the day, we were fighting our battles on those fronts.
I was determined to wear that dress on TV because it has a backstory for me, and I was not going to change. I was not going to change out of that dress, but yeah, we sweat a lot. And so Sam and I were basically the whole time back in the green room, alternating, just like running for the bathroom to get more paper towels underneath our arms.
Yeah.
Sitting there.
Yours being like perfectly exposed, and then mine being like, I've got to go under the sport coat, under the shirt, whatever. They were like putting some kind of tape, and we normally use this for whatever, purposes, beauty contestants or something. And, and then it's like, it's not working. And so, my battles were being fought on the inside, and Melanie was fighting the same battle a little more visibly. But, so
like
that kind of helped us
on the way back to the paper towels, it'd be like, hey, off to replace them.
Tag team, yeah, right. Did you leave me a few? Right. So getting a chance to bond in that circumstance was nice, because then when I shared the same kind of idea of, I think everybody goes into this imagining that they're going to do well. I'm guessing that if you don't think you're going to do well, you're probably going to be correct. But so my game didn't turn out quite the way I wanted, maybe in a different fashion than Melanie's. I would say if we were putting it in baseball terms, she might have had more of a Cubs kind of game, and I had kind of more of a Red Sox kind of game. The victory from the jar, grasping defeat from the jaws of victory sort of thing. But I walked away from that, and I didn't really know how to feel about it. On the one hand, I thought, man, I played a good game. When I really sat down and thought about it, I was like, I was one word from winning this thing, which honestly didn't help. It actually probably made me feel a little bit worse. But then there was this whole idea of like, okay, what do I tell everybody now? And what am I going to do when my episode airs? Do I encourage people to tune in, even though it doesn't go not just the way that I wanted it to, but the way that everybody that knows me, I've got to think, is expecting it to go, right? I don't think anybody says, you'd make a great Jeopardy contestant, not a winner, but you'd be good second, third place spotter, right? So how to handle that was really kind of tricky, and I think Melanie and I sort of bonded over the idea that we're going to embrace the idea that it really is an achievement to get this far, and whatever happens on the show, you can be proud of that. There's no need to be embarrassed or worried about it. And honestly, that's one of the things that I think taping late in the day was good for. I got a chance to see other people go through that and have some of the same realizations that, the people, if I had been making predictions based on our very limited interactions in the green room, I don't think I would have done that well at predicting how the games go. As I've said elsewhere, Melanie and her binders in the green room, no less. I was like, man, she is not here to make friends, which is like the furthest thing from the truth. Knowing what I know about Melanie. Nobody seems to be able to make friends like she can. Yeah, so you get a sense of, okay, yeah, these people really are. They're every bit as bright as I am, and probably better prepared. So they did the studying that I thought about doing. Right? How is this going to go, et cetera, and how do we feel about it? But that really, I think, kind of the two of us together were able to thing. It's not just you're all winners and everybody gets a trophy, but this really is an achievement and something to be proud of. And honestly, I felt bad then for the people that lost earlier in the day that then didn't hang around and have that chance. And I kind of hoped that we'd get a chance to kind of reconnect and sort of send that message of like, whatever internal struggles you're having, hey, like, we're building a group consensus that it's all good. So, let's embrace it. Nobody should be embarrassed about anything that happens on there. But, we are a fraternity, and we realize the winners and the losers seem to realize that there's a lot of luck that goes into this. And so
Oh yeah.
You know, the entertainment is there for the audience, but we're all bright people, and we're all the kind of people that we would like to be able to get to know and associate with. So I think that's been a very positive thing for me in kind of making my peace with the idea that something that I've dreamed about doing for a long time is now in my rearview mirror rather than in my imagination, as it were.
And so how much has the alumni groups, how much have the alumni groups helped with that?
They've helped a lot. I'm sorry, I just realized that whole lead-in didn't answer your question that you asked me to begin with, which was that in that spirit, I decided to embrace watching this thing, and I invited basically everybody that I knew that was local to come out and watch it. We all gathered at the local Buffalo Wild Wings. The news crew came out, covered this party. It was probably about 50 people. And so we sit down to watch it, and yeah, it starts out a little bit bumpy, but we come back from commercials and we're doing the competitor introductions. And Alex had just asked me about throwing myself a surprise birthday party and how that works. And I get about a sentence into it, and they cut away to radar because there was a tornado watch going on.
Oh, that's so bad.
That's what you get for living in Champaign.
Yeah. You know, the thing had come on my phone early. And the irony is, like, the camera crew from that station is sitting here with us, and they're very apologetic. Like, we are so sorry. Like, you know, and what was unbelievable is I kept waiting. Well, when are they gonna come back? Are they gonna miss, you know, the best parts? Are they gonna the story? And then it's like, they're gonna come back, right? They're not gonna spend the whole 22 minutes or whatever we have left. And literally, they decided to finally wind down this rather meandering tour of Central Illinois radar stations with the 5 o'clock news, where the lead story was, we're covering the watch party from Buffalo Wild Wings, where nobody got to see this game played. And I didn't really know what to feel, honestly, but the station was very apologetic. The people said they'd try to get me a recording or something. And instead I just stand up in the restaurant and sort of recount, okay, here are kind of the highlights. Here's how it goes. Here are my big moments. You can all cheer for me. You know, there was a little bit of a gasp when I missed my first question, and I was in the red. And I have to say, I remember being in the red it felt like a long time. And then I got the Marie Curie. I should always remember that was my first right answer. It got me out of the red, and everybody stood up and cheered. And it's like, okay, I guess that's going to have to be my moment, because all the rest of this.
You got the Final Jeopardy, and you were the only one.
Right, but nobody saw it.
Right.
So as far as at the party, that was the highlight of the party, was when I got the $600 question. Yeah.
Well, on my game, they interrupted with the Manchester bombing news while we were writing our Final Jeopardy answers.
That was, well, see, ours, they didn't even get to reveal the question. It just, Alex said, here, we're back to Final Jeopardy, and then they cut away to it, and then, of course, they came back for Dancing with the Stars.
Yep.
5 minutes later. You know, and everybody in the bar was like, California. Oh, man, how did it end?
Yeah, I got a lot of calls. It's like, what happened?
So if you had been one of the stars, would that have been a giveaway that you must have won?
But yeah, within 5-10 minutes, I probably had about 150 text messages, Facebook messages, everybody saying, how did it end? How did it end?
How did it end?
And luckily a friend of ours in Memphis had filmed it, the TV with her iPhone, and was able to send us the ending.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't have a chance to build that much suspense. They were just starting to get invested in the story. So. Yeah.
So, but while we're talking about, you know, your various Final Jeopardies, I might as well ask, 3428. Usually weird numbers have some sort of significance. So, while I believe I know what it is, and no, it's not an NFL thing, because your friend Eugene was posting about it on Instagram, and I managed to figure it out. But you can tell the rest of the viewers the significance of 3428.
Yes, I will. So I'll have to say this is something I had given some thought to going into the game. Various scenarios of, okay, if I find myself in a position where I have, we'll say, strategic latitude in what I wager. You know, if I'm not trying to hit a certain number to catch somebody or hit a certain number to not be caught by somebody, what might I want to do? And as a math nerd, one of the numbers I had in mind was $314, but that wasn't going to get it done in this case. So I chose 3428 because on I am a huge Auburn Tigers football fan. And a couple of years ago, one of the most notable games, arguably in history, Auburn and Alabama were playing, and the score was tied at 28. Alabama, with 1 second left, Alabama attempted a long field goal, and it came up short. And Auburn had a defensive back that caught the kick 9 yards deep in his own end zone and ran it back the entire length of the field with 1 second remaining to win that game 34-28, knocking off number 1 undefeated Alabama, catapulting Auburn to the SEC championship, and within 13 seconds of the national title. So that is immortalized to kick 6 and will never be forgotten by any Auburn fan that's alive today. So in fact, the little commercial sort of public service announcement that Auburn airs during their football games features a bunch of Auburn graduates of note, and they're all buying toilet paper to go roll the trees at Toomer's Corner, which is a huge Auburn tradition. And one of them is an astronaut, and he closes the trunk of his SUV, and the license plate frame says, "My other car is a space shuttle," and the license plate number says 34-28. So, one of the things about playing Alabama is if you win a game against them, you kind of have to hang on to it for a few years because you're not going to get that many. But when I originally wrote it, in fact, I put the 34 and the 28 with a little bit of space in between. And the Jeopardy folks didn't like that. They made me rewrite it closer together, which I thought was interesting because I'm like, obviously you know what I'm writing, because they said you have to write the same number. You can't change it. I'm like, well, if you know what the number is, then why are we having this discussion? But it would have made more sense had Alex followed the index card as I had requested. Because the story, I don't know if the viewers know, we supply a whole bunch of stories for them to use, and then they boil it down to 3 that they put on the card, and they tell Alex this is the one that you should use, but he does exercise his discretion sometimes. And I figured out as he was talking to Liz, he as soon as he asked her the question, she starts talking, and he tunes her out and looks down at the cards, and he slides her card down and starts looking at mine. And he reads story number 1 and then slides the card back up. So I realized at that point that he was going to ask about my surprise birthday party and was not going to ask me about my childhood idol, Charles Barkley, going on a trip with the Auburn basketball team, etc., that would have established me as an Auburn fan and probably would have opened that up to a lot more viewers. So people that know me back home, I think, knew what was going on, although not many of them figured it out either, admittedly. They had kind of not paid that close of attention. The good news is that I probably didn't attract the ire of the Alabama fan base, who is huge and rather virulent. So the hate mail, if it's coming, it's running a little late. So, yeah.
So interestingly enough, 34-28 is getting more comments from Patriots fans than Auburn fans. Lots of people pointing out that Super Bowl 51 also ended 34-28, and that was my first guess when it's like, oh, is there some significance there? Are you a Patriots fan? And then I was told, no, that is not the case.
If anything, I'm a Falcons fan, so to any Falcons fans that took offense, I apologize. It was not my intent.
Actually, I feel the need, because I'm going to send this link to my mom, and I would like to, if it's okay, take the opportunity to, I guess, jump off of the fact that Trebek can be a bit of a wild card when picking stories, because the one that we had decided to go with, like the story that we picked for me, was the fact that my mom postponed my literal birth because Final Jeopardy was on. So I was born on a Wednesday on November 18th, it was Tournament of Champions in 1987. Such a year I was born, so it was Tournament of Champions, and we had to go get a C-section, and she told them not to wheel her away until after they had aired Final Jeopardy, because she wanted to see what Final Jeopardy was. She was like, I gotta see, it's a Tournament of Champions. Like, I can't miss Final Jeopardy. There was no J Archive, I guess.
No, there was no J Archive in 1987.
No J Archive in 87, and so she wouldn't let that. And so I was born at 7:46 p.m. Eastern time on my birthday, because like my mom had to see Final Jeopardy. And of course, like that's the story that I'm like, of course I go on Jeopardy, I got to tell that one. And my mom is sitting in the audience along with my dad and my brother and my husband. And so you know, a bunch of them there. But like my mom is my mom, and I grew up watching Jeopardy with her. Obviously, she's a fan, and I want to tell this. And then Trebek is looking at the cards, and he uses the donut bouquet, which was the most.
Do you have any thought of just hijacking it and just being like, actually, Alex, that's a good point. So my mom was giving her.
So funny enough, I would never have gotten married to my husband had I not been born. And here's the story about my birth. No.
Let that be his problem. You just tell him that he asked about the one he wants, and he can go back and re-record his segment, right?
Yes.
Well, I think, and I'm glad I got to say it because I also very much appreciate my husband and his support, and I love him, and it was a good story, and it played well, and all that. And so it was a good story. It's fine, but
and your argument ender for life.
There,
right?
Like, what?
And your argument ender for life, right? Your husband is lucky to have you from Alex Trebek.
I was so glad they didn't edit it out. I'm like, I'm gonna make a GIF of it. I'm gonna meme it. Like, predicting your husband's lucky to have you. Like argument ender for the rest of my life. But what got edited out in the show was that I think the reason he picked that story was because you see it flashes over to my face, and I kind of make this face like, where are you going with this? And it's because he had just spent like easily 2 or 3, which doesn't sound like a lot, but is a lot, 2 or 3 minutes talking at length about how he didn't mess up Valentine's Day this year. And he like went into detail on, he was like, I messed up Valentine's Day last year. My wife was really upset, but this year I got it right. I did this, I did that, I did this, I did this other thing. He talked like at length about his Valentine's Day plans. He's like, your husband also didn't mess up Valentine's Day. And I'm like, uh-huh. So I think he really just wanted to have an excuse to like tell everybody that he didn't mess up Valentine's Day. Good for him.
On the subject of interviews, I do want to talk about Tanya's first interview, obviously with the giraffe. Now, I know that in the case, yes, giraffe. Now, I know that in the case of Jennifer Morrow, that with her interview with the Rush drumsticks, they basically were like highlighted on the card. She has the drumsticks. Please ask about this, otherwise this is not going to end well. So, in the case of your interview,
threat, right?
Yeah, it's a threat to Alex. Use this interview, but so my question is, did they tell Alex you actually brought the giraffe with you?
Oh no, Raffi was a surprise. Yeah, what they said to me, I said, "Can I bring Raffi up there?" And they said, Raffi can be up there, but he has to be out of sight. So poor Raffi's wedged between that little screen that you sign on and there's a little gap between that and the podium. So he's wedged in there, and they said, but if he brings it up, you can show him. So as soon as he said you collect giraffes, out pops Raffi. And I was surprised that he actually held Raffi. Yeah, Raffi belongs to my 8-year-old daughter, and people in the green room were like, "Have you had that since birth?" I said, "No, my 8-year-old's had it since she was a toddler." Raffi,
it's just not yours.
No, Raffi's not mine, though I did buy Raffi, and I named Raffi. And I started a giraffe obsession in this house. Like the skin horse and the Velveteen Rabbit, Raffi is real. So Raffi's been everywhere she has, and Raffi was actually hiding in that console all the other games. And after my second interview, Alex actually leans over and peeks at Raffi and says, "Oh, he's sleeping today." But naturally, they edited that out because it would have been a total non sequitur at the end of the interview. But my kid is a game show fanatic, and I couldn't bring her. It was too much school to miss, so I brought her best buddy, Raffi. And she was so thrilled when Raffi was on TV. And my 12-year-old was like, "Oh, Mom, you didn't show Raffi on TV, did you?"
So, I know, okay. My next question is for Tanya as well a little bit. Obviously, we've had the experience of coping with, not doing so well on Jeopardy after hoping you would. Now, you obviously had a significantly different experience than the other three panelists in that respect, in that you won a couple of games. Now, what's that feeling like, realizing you're going to win and, being announced as champion and then, having the quick wardrobe change? You got like 15 minutes before you have to go back out again. And so what's that feeling like?
That feeling, you really don't have any time to process what has just happened. I think they like literally take you by the shoulders and hustle you on back. And it's like, okay, there's the closet, change your clothes, makeup chair, back on stage. And by the third game, you've got this feeling like you're on a runaway train and you don't know how you're going to get off. Of course, the third game, the train wrecked and I got right off. So it is, in some senses, you're disappointed to lose, but there's also a sense of relief because it gets very intense after a while, because then they're like, well, we'll have to think about more, if you win again, we'll have to think about more stories and more clothes, and it's a lot of time to be on, answering the questions and that focused and that into it.
Tiny violin playing for you. Hashtag first place problems, right?
Yeah.
So, can you talk about the various, I should say, did you think much about betting strategy before you came onto the show?
Oh, my husband for months, actually before they even called, Jeopardy called, he'd go through at Final Jeopardy, he'd pause and he'd say, okay, this person needs to bet this and this person needs to bet that. And we get to Final Jeopardy and I'm trying to remember what Tom had told me I needed to do. And my mind goes blank and the thought is, okay, I need to have more than double what Ragavan has. So if I put what Ragavan has plus $5, that'll work. Lots of people who know how you're supposed. I mean, they gave me paper with math, and I tried to do math, and then it's like, okay, my brain is not doing math right now. I'm just this will work. It made logical sense to me. That's why when the total shows up, I'm like, oh. I was very surprised because I never bothered to add it up. I just thought I just need more than double what Ragavan has. So that's what I put down.
Well, that is one. I mean, that is certainly one way of looking at it, and you're not the first person to have done that. I will say that much.
And Tanya, I have to say, no one else here identifies with your experience of having a brain fart in Final Jeopardy. No.
I have to say, as a mathematician, in essence, it's a little bit frustrating that the entire show is predicated on like quick reflexes and instant recall, and then when it comes time to engage in my specialty, well, we better give you like 10 or 15 minutes and a couple reams of paper and whatever else you need to add and subtract a couple numbers. That is clearly way too much to ask of somebody. I'm like, really? Come on, people, cut me a break, right? I will say that was one of the things that I felt good about how I played the game from that standpoint, and even in defeat, if I want to get snippy, I'll be critical of my opponent's strategies and wagering and choices and so forth. That John really, that $5 wager might have been cute, but he really should have bet a little more in case he got it right. He could have clinched a victory without compromising his chances at defeat. And what I have to remind myself occasionally is maybe John wasn't really worried about winning. It was just money to But that was the part. It was like, yeah, I'm really good at this. Unfortunately, I don't have enough money for that to matter. But
sorry, go ahead, Justin.
Well, as I was saying to my wife, so going into Final Jeopardy, what I either wanted to be in one of two places, either way out in the front where no one can catch me, or where I was, like in third place with the other two, to the point where there's not a lot of strategy on my part. I'm kind of letting them fight out amongst themselves, and then you're just kind of rolling the dice, But I didn't necessarily want to be like in a three-way. Okay, now you started getting the strategy and figure out all the different, and then if you end up doing the strategy wrong, you know, wake up 10 years from now going, oh God,
I didn't carry the one. Ah!
Yeah, exactly. I was glad where I was. Is like, okay, it's like I just have to do. I did my part. I got it right, and then it's just roll the dice and see what happens.
Yeah, and you got it right off the bat. I had to think about it. If you actually watch the footage, you can see him. I go, oh, and change the answer.
Yeah, when I saw that you changed it, it's like, oh man.
I have one and only one regret about the answers that I gave, and it's not even not getting the answer right. Because here's the thing: I knew I couldn't win. Right? Like at that point, by the time I got to my final, I knew I couldn't win. It was mathematically impossible. So when I scribbled down what was the right answer, it was mostly just to try and spare myself endless humiliation at Thanksgivings for the rest of my life. Although I should have known better, because even just initially getting it wrong, nothing would have spared me humiliation at Thanksgiving for the rest of my life. So I shouldn't even have bothered. But my one regret.
One day a year.
What?
Nice that you can confine your humiliation to one day a year.
I know. At least I live across the country. Well, okay. So my husband and I, we got my 3-year-old nephew Ninja Turtle everything for his birthday, like 2 months before we taped. And Ninja Turtle was like my husband's favorite everything growing up. And he and his sister used to like fight about the pizza truck, and it was a whole thing, like Ninja Turtles. And then my sister-in-law texted me to be like, getting your husband's favorite cartoon wrong, that's savage. Like, that is savage. But my regret was that for some reason, all the ideas I had to be, none of the answers that I would have come up with at home, for the most part, like, didn't come to my head at the moment. But the opportunities to be funny didn't. Like, Justin, like you were saying with the whole, like, oh, I didn't want to have to, you know, you either want to be so far ahead or you want to be so far behind that it doesn't even matter, and at least you're not. I was, and I was like, why didn't my idea that I've been telling my brother-in-law actually was, I was like, if I don't know Final Jeopardy and it doesn't matter, then I'll write out #blessed as my answer, just to be funny, because it's just, like, sometimes I'll just write #blessed because it's like a funny, stupid thing to say. And I don't know why I didn't write that, because it wouldn't have, my answer didn't matter. And so I'm like, man, why didn't I go for like the final that I at least could have like memed or something? Like, what? I'm like, I was so far behind, it didn't matter. Why didn't I go for gold? No, but.
You know, I felt that way about the Daily Double. When we were doing rehearsal the first time through, I hit a Daily Double. And for some reason in my mind, I guess maybe I was already in the competitive zone, and I had this tribalism idea of those of us who are in the middle spot and those of us on that, you know, I need to represent for the team, so I'll make a savvy wager, you know. And as soon as I said it, I was like, what am I thinking? Like, I may never have a chance to stand here again and go, let's make it a true Daily Double, Alex. You know? And it was like I had 4,000 and I bet 3 or, you know, whatever amount. It's like it didn't even make any difference. Why would I let that opportunity? And the whole crowd let me know it, right? Maybe even the rest of the, you know, basically everybody was like, you idiot. Like, this is a rehearsal. You should have, you know, bet $1 million, you know, whatever you want, but have fun with it. Don't. So I was kind of chewing on that a little bit. And then when it actually came up in the game, and I have to say, I've always been critical of people that are quote unquote fishing for a Daily Double or hunting for a Daily Double.
Mm-hmm.
But I looked at it going, the way the buzzer is working for me, I need to hunt for a Daily Double. So, you know, wasn't thrilled with the categories. I was still waiting for the country music category or the math category or whatever, you know, I was pretty sure I could run. So I literally picked Liberty because I have a bunch of friends who are like really kind of militant libertarian types. And I'm like, you know what, if nothing else, they will approve of this choice. So we'll go with it. And then I hit that thing. I was, well, you know, I was behind, but I wasn't that far behind. So it's like, yeah, I could do like maybe 3,000. And then I was like, come on, man. It's only $600 difference. If you get this wrong, you know, you're going to be in a world of hurt. So
I was ready
take
to
the
kill
moment.
you for not finishing that TV show category.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. I mean, I fumbled The Apprentice after, so it didn't get off to a really good start, right? But anyway, it wasn't. Yeah, to be fair, it wasn't me that wasn't finishing it, right?
Yeah.
You could tell it.
But yeah, it was the game right before mine. There was a category that was musical numbers, that musical number category.
Oh,
and
yeah, that was in my game.
Okay. I sat there like digging my nails, I think, into like Oh,
Yeah.
because every single one of those songs, because I teach fitness, I do Zumba,
Oh.
yoga, every single one of those songs had been in one of my playlists in the past month. Everyone, all five. And I was like,
I think it's mostly healed now, but
and then I get more pop culture categories are sci-fi movies and Barbra Streisand duets. I'm like, okay. Cool.
There's such a huge luck factor. I mean, I was so lucky that the Wednesday game was my third one, because like tennis comes up and I know nothing about sports. And then when the dogs came up at Final Jeopardy, I'm like, okay, this is over. Doesn't matter what I wager. I know nothing about dogs.
yeah.
So, I mean, I lucked out. I was on 2 games where I knew a lot of stuff. And that helps.
And you got Rappy on TV.
And Raffy got to be, that was what I really wanted. Raffy wanted to be on TV. So Raffy was excited. And my 8-year-old just went crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I look back at it and say, basically I lost my game on the Back to the Future category. And looking back at, I mean, I knew every one of those answers, including the one I got wrong, which I have to say, every time I ask somebody that question and they say exactly what I said,
Well,
I
that's
feel
what
just a little bit better.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it was a careless error. It wasn't, I knew what it was. I was in a rush because I knew things were kind of tipping against me. So that says, even the category luck doesn't capture it, because, in retrospect, I could have done that for my opening choice and said, this is something that I know the most about. And it still was probably my undoing. But getting to say the daily double phrase, and frankly, I was glad that the question wasn't too easy. I didn't just spit it out. I got to actually have the pensive look and think about it, and sort of in the classic Jeopardy style. It's not the I know the answer, but it's the I can infer the answer from the data and the context they're giving me, compose it and spit it out. And I didn't have to fake any of that. It was like organic, think about it, answer correct. I could experience the genuine joy of like, that is correct, right? You didn't just throw me under the bus with a bunch of misleading stuff. So that was probably a super happy moment that I was like, okay, whatever happens from here, like I've got this in my mental DVR going forward. So I was glad that I had gotten the not wagering at all bug out of my system in rehearsal.
Did any of you guys have questions where, sorry, I'm moderating.
That's fine. Go on. By all means, go ahead.
You realize this was going to happen, right?
What?
I said, Andy, you realize this was going to happen, right? This was never not going to be this way if you invited Melanie.
Probably, yeah, exactly.
Well, it's Memorial Day. You've got a day off.
I was saying, were there any questions that you guys, when you were watching your episodes back, you didn't know them when you were watching, but you somehow got them right on the episode? Because I had 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, I must not have known that one. And then I saw myself get it right, and I'm like, how?
The Mauna, it was either Mauna Loa or Mauna Kea, and I never remember which one is which, but I answered apparently with some confidence or desperation, whichever. I guess I had a good poker face, but I was impressed that I just spit whichever one out that way. Now, it may have been that I had seen that like within the previous week or two, and so I knew at the time, but it's one of those things that didn't stick beyond that. So that one impressed me. I didn't remember, like, thinking back on the game until I watched it. It was like I only remember a handful of the questions. I remember the ones I got wrong and a couple of the ones that I got right, but not most of the ones that I got right. So in that sense, I was kind of pleased. Something would come on and I would, watch it. And I'm like, does that sound like something that I would get? Oh, look, I'm ringing in. That's got to be a good sign, right? Hey, good for me. Okay, I really only get 3 questions the whole game the way it was in my memory. Even in the moment where I knew it and I was a little bit slow getting to the, not in beating the other contestants, but it's like I reflected on it just a little bit too long. The skipjack tuna question definitely comes to mind. Probably the San Francisco Bay one, because I was like, wait, what other bay is there in California, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was kind of a gift. And I imagined Melanie going, come on, Sam. What are you doing, buddy?
That was a hard game to watch, that whole game. Right after our whole green room conversation where I was like, opera and ballet are my strengths. I really hope I get an opera or a ballet category. And then I'm sitting there and it's like top TV shows, opera and ballet. Like San Francisco Bay is a clue. I'm like, okay, I should have gone home.
Yeah.
So I just want to interject here with a couple of things from the YouTube chat. Regavon is actually watching tonight, so thanks for joining us. He says, I muttered several goddammits under my breath. So yes, these sound editors do their job properly.
How far under your breath was it is the question, right? If it was more on top of your breath, that's a different story.
Yes. And also, Tanya's wager also saved me face for getting Final Jeopardy wrong. So thanks.
Well, you're welcome.
That's the spirit.
A couple of comments from Matt Carberry. Watch out what you say about Crimson Tide fans, Sam. It's all fun and games until they show up where you live and start poisoning trees.
Fortunately, I live in Champaign, Illinois. We don't have any trees here. They can poison all the corn stalks they want. We've got plenty more.
And also from Matt Carberry, which something that is true because I'm in Canada and it is not a holiday up here. Andy doesn't have the day off, so he deserves a break anyway. Our big holiday was last Monday. We celebrate Queen Victoria's birthday that the previous Monday in May. So I still have a few questions on my thing. One thing I always like to ask on live panel, I think two of you should be able to answer this one, Sam and Melanie, because you were still in the studio by the time that Thursday rolled around, and got to have lunch on Sony's dime at the commissary. So that I'd like to ask, what did you guys pick for lunch?
Want to start?
I have an embarrassing story about my lunch.
Okay.
I eat a lot. And I eat a lot, and so they give you $12 worth of food, which like should suffice. And then
no, they give you $12, which is about $4 worth of food.
Well, they give you $12, and so then they say, but if you go over, it's okay, we'll cover it. So like it's still free, like you can go over, it's fine. But so I'm wearing a dress, no pockets, because it's a dress made for women. So no pockets. And so we walk over.
Clarification.
Women's clothes never have pockets.
A dress made for women.
So
you do live in the Bay Area, so all right.
What?
I guess you do live in the Bay Area, so a dress made for women might be a necessary clarification.
Well, my dress has no pockets, and so we go over, and so I have nothing on me, no phone, because we didn't have our phones, no money, no nothing. And so we go over, and I get two slices of pizza, a soda, a cookie. I don't eat great. You heard my story about the donut, okay? And I think I tried to grab a couple of granola bars to take back with me because they had like Kind bars there. And that was way too much. I realized it was too much, and so I put it back. So I got 2 pieces of pizza, a soda, and a cookie. And then I go up, and it comes out to $12.05. I give them the voucher thing, and then she stands there looking at me, and she's like, oh, but they said it would be okay. They said it would cover it. And she's like, ma'am, we need 5 cents. And I'm sitting there like,
you should have said in orientation they told us we could go up to the maximum value of the category, right? So yeah, I'm allowed to wait. And so then
I'm standing there and I'm like, I don't know, I can put the cookie back. I really don't know what you want from me. I'm in this situation and it's incredibly uncomfortable. And then finally Karina like runs up and she has a nickel and she puts it down. She's like, there you go, take your lunch.
I have to say, they were very careful with those certificates. Like, I was standing in line with them, and they were doing, like, a lot of optimization of, like, okay, we're going to put your lunch together with your lunch to make sure that we get, like, $12 out of each one of those things. So I had, like, I think a bacon cheeseburger and a slice of pizza and a drink because I was feeling kind of like I was kind of dragging. I hadn't gotten that much sleep. So I thought, yeah, I better get some caffeine here. Later, I would regret that choice, I would say, I forgot about that whole adrenaline thing. When my pulse was 137 in the green room, I was going, I probably didn't need caffeine in retrospect. But, I don't know. Melanie and I might have to compare notes on who eats more at some point. But I got my money's worth. And I realized in the end what I really should have done is said, you know what, I'll pay for the lunch. I just want one of those Sony Buck things as a souvenir because that would have been pretty cheap, but it was funny watching them. Like I was like, are we really on that much of a shoestring budget here? Like, got to watch every last one of those certificates.
I just couldn't believe that Karina had to swoop in and like save the day with a nickel.
my favorite part of lunch, actually, I'm not a salad person. Said I got a burger, I got pizza, but I was really tempted to at least get something from the salad bar, because when I was standing there, sort of looking it over, I was right in line behind Kelly and Sarah, the Clue crew, and I was like, my kingdom for my cell phone here at the moment to pull it out and get a selfie with these ladies, because I think I literally said to them at one point when maybe we're passing outside, and I said something like, "See you later. Like, hopefully you'll appear in my game, so I will get to see you later." But my friends
sound a little creepy.
Yeah, I refrained. So it was in my head, and I didn't do anything.
Oh, you didn't say it to them. You didn't actually say it to them.
I didn't say. I think I said it, but probably not where they heard it or where it would have made it.
Probably for the best.
Yeah, that's probably okay. I don't know what they have thrown me out of the pool. I don't know. So after, when it was all over, I guess, but before I had gotten out there, my friends that had come to see me were in front of the studio, and they were wanting to take a picture there, I guess, with a Jeopardy sign or something. So they asked Kelly to take their picture. And she said, "Oh, would you like me to be in it with you?" And they were like, No, that's okay. Just take our picture." Like, clearly they had no idea who she was. Like,
speaking of no idea who she was, I'm going to interject with a story. The NAQT High School National Championship was this weekend, and a lot of Jeopardy alumni go and staff that. And it seems to have become a bit of a tradition. I know Colby Burnett, a few TOCs ago, is often at these events. And Ben Ingram is often at these events. He won the TOC after Colby. And a lot of these high school students see Colby, and they're like, "Colby, we want a picture with you." And then they proceed to hand their camera to Ben Ingram to take the picture. It has happened 3 years in a row.
I guess the scuttlebutt is that Ben takes better pictures than Colby does. So,
That clearly must be the case. So, what's it like watching Jeopardy now that you've been a contestant? You've taped the show. How has your viewing, changed after taping an episode?
We notice all these different little things, like you hear the click when people hang up the signaling devices. As my husband's pointed out, you'll hear one big clap before everyone starts clapping because of the warm-up lady directing that. It's just little bits of things. And then you notice the box that some people are standing on. The shorter people like myself, they raise them up on a platform.
among other reasons, it would really would have been great if Melanie had won, because I think between her and Liz, we would have really tested the limits of those boxes with me standing. If you really want to know how far they go check and see whatever Liz was standing on. But in fact, I think as I looked at my picture with Alex, I'm pretty sure, like, once I Googled it and it says he's like 5'8", 5'9" on the internet, I'm pretty sure there were some tippy toes going on there on his part. But what else did I notice? I noticed in my episode, actually, that they edited out some sound. When after final, when Alex comes over to discuss my answer in the studio, he said something to the effect of, "Sam, like, you were doing okay, and then things really went south for you in Double Jeopardy," or something, which disappointing. But then we go over it, and I got my answer right, and I was proud of that, and so forth. And I noticed when they aired it, it just says, "Sam, let's take a look at your answer," or something, and they cut that out. And if you listen closely, you can kind of tell that there's sort of an unnatural intonation in his voice. And I realized, like, yeah, they took that out. And I wondered, did they take it out because they thought it was kind of snarky on his part? Did they take it out because they went, he ended up getting that right, nobody else did, and he finished in second place, so maybe it didn't go quite as far south as we thought. And of course, being from Alabama, I thought going south might not have to be a bad thing, but that's a whole different story. But that was definitely something that I noticed in that one. So I look for those kinds of, continuity things and so forth. The interruption due to my excessive perspiration, which I believe I was the only one that pulled that off. So, step it up a little bit, Melanie. Where they actually had to stop mid filming because there was too much of a glare on my forehead or something.
I forgot about that. Yeah, you definitely have to eat.
And in my case, it's not due to a lack of hair, but they so they stopped it. But it was very mysterious. They just stopped. Everybody turn around. I really thought somebody must have yelled an answer or said an answer in the audience, and so there was a security issue. And then they come over and start working on my makeup and so forth, and patting me dry like a boxing trainer or something. And then they were like, "Okay, we're going to resume this." It was right after they'd had the contestant interviews, and then John had selected a question, but I think Alex had not yet read it. So they were like, "We're going to come back, and we're just going to pretend that he just selected that, and then Alex will read it." And when you watch that one, it's completely seamless. If I didn't know that happened, I would have no clue from what was seen. But I do look for those things. So people ask, is what we see what actually happens? And I think, well, for the most part it is, but there are these little exceptions. Usually the audio things. I think there were a couple of contestant introductions that weren't pronounced just correctly that they fixed, etc. So I do look for that a little bit.
Pronunciation of Yangling. Kept getting it wrong. He was like, Yuangling, Yuangling, Yuangling.
Which anybody on the show probably could have gotten it right, since we all discussed it at tremendous length on the way over.
Yep.
For me, watching, I think two things. First of all, I don't keep track of my score anymore. I used to keep track of my forecast score, and I had a little I made myself a spreadsheet that I had for years and years, and I made myself a little Excel thing where it calculated all my things % wrong and everything, and then all the things I didn't know I put into my binders, and I don't do that anymore. But I think watching it, I also, I don't know, I feel like I'm a much kinder person watching them now. I was never mean about people, really, but I think, and this happens for everybody, is that you assume if you don't see people answering the questions that they don't know them, just because you know what you see, right? You see, there's no reason to know either way, but knowing how that buzzer, I don't assume that people don't know the ones that they're not answering anymore, which I think is the automatic first assumption that everyone has watching, is because if you don't see someone answer it, you don't know. And I also kind of, I guess this is just from first having been a Thursday, and maybe Sam, you feel the same way being Friday. I noticed that the contestants on Thursday and Friday are markedly different from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because you can notice sort of a little bit that they know each other better, and there's also more caffeine. And more caffeine and lunch.
Yeah.
So I noticed it Wednesday and Thursday. You can tell the people who have just gotten to the point where they're hungry but haven't had a chance to eat yet, versus the people who just had a chance to eat. And so it's little things like that you're like, oh yeah, you just ate lunch. It's like, oh, you're probably really hungry. That's kind of
I think I'm more sympathetic to wrong answers, but I still haven't come around on betting strategy errors. Yeah, I'm still sick of it. If you don't bet right, or
I'm a little.
Justin,
I'm a little kinder when people are getting it wrong, so it's.
So
you yell at them. Come on, man, you should know that.
Wait, one more thing.
One
more thing I feel obligated to say, because I know that this is sort of common knowledge, but not common knowledge. Everyone watching this knows that the clues, that the screens are really small, right? The screens are small, which I feel obligated to mention.
Have good vision, I'll say.
What?
I said it's a nice time to have good vision. I assumed when I was watching the show that they were either so small that no one could read them, or blown up huge so that everyone can read it. So the fact that it's kind of on the fringe, for me it was fine, but I have good vision. But I could see how for some people that'd be a little bit of an issue. That was interesting to see, I think.
Well, that's how I got messed up with my video. Because I thought that Raphael was a woman. That's why. Because from the distance, all I saw was that Raphael was I saw 3 obvious dudes and someone who was clean shaven and had long hair, and I thought it was a woman. And so I was like, okay, what group had 1 woman and a bunch of men, each one having a different color, sometime around the 80s?
Mm-hmm.
And so then it was that one woman that tripped me up. I'm like, if only I could. So the screens are really small to me. I'm gonna say they're really small. And that was very androgynous looking.
So, Sam,
Yes.
normally I don't ask this sort of a question on live panel, but you've brought up wagering mistakes a couple of times. So, what did you think of Wednesday's situation, where first had second plus third? And I was just curious of what you thought of how that went down on Wednesday.
I noted that it was interesting, and that provided some opportunities. I think I may have even mentioned it to Melanie. I don't think I then thought too carefully about how it ended up playing out, ironically. It was kind of like, okay, this presents some interesting dilemmas. The tie-breaking rules, et cetera, may be coming into play here. But I think by the time they actually did it, yeah, I don't know. I think I was maybe I'm rougher on them when I'm watching from the couch, but from the studio, maybe I was more interested in seeing how they were going to attack it, just from a sizing up people. Are they aggressive? Are they conservative? So I don't have as good an answer for you as I should. I'll put it that way.
Okay. Do any of you
there are
remember?
latitudes? Let me put it this way: in that situation, there are latitudes in how to handle it that there probably aren't in certain other cases. The choices are not as clear cut.
Mm-hmm. At least in some of the spots, yes. So, do any of you remember what you talked about with Alex post game?
Yes. We talked about, so first of all, I was a little mad that John seemed to be monopolizing the discussion. I'm like, hey, dude, you're getting another one of these. Like, this is my shot. But we talked about some sort of a show that Alex had hosted previously, like before he was on Jeopardy a long time ago, and they were trying to remember the particulars. And I'm like, really? Like, we've got 30, 45 seconds of this, and you want to sit there and think about something? Like, I was really expecting a little more. But I tried to look congenial. I figured that was what mattered.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember he actually was just kind of going over the game with us. He just was kind of, which actually kind of, that I thought was interesting because it kind of showed that he was actually paying attention to the actual game. I mean, he was kind of saying, "Hey, Justin, you got some questions right. You had some good categories. You know your beer." That type of thing.
Alex, that might have been the most important thing to him, right?
Yes.
So that was kind of, I mean, I do remember that.
Yeah. I have to say that Alex saying that I was his kind of guy, that might be up there with Melanie saying your husband's lucky to have you, in terms of one of those moments that I'm going to embrace forever. One of my friends made a little video clip of that. That's like a 5-second loop. And I'm thinking, like, that may have to be my new phone ringtone.
I know, and I did what I do, and I just jumped in and I started like bop, 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 bop. And so we go there, and I'd obviously like finished last by like a lot, and I was about to leave, and I'm like this, and I don't know if you guys saw in my conversation like my height difference. Really, I was like here, and everyone else was like, I kind of looked like someone had literally like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids me. And so I was wearing heels too. I'm just like this little person. I'm like, crap, I'm just happy to be here. And I just go up and I essentially started talking right away. And I started saying essentially the same thing like I was saying about Justin at the beginning, where I was like, no, I started talking to everyone, and everyone here is so smart. And I must have sounded like one of those people where it's like you're from like the Midwest and then you move to the big city. I'm like, gosh, everyone here is just so wonderful. Like, like, I think that's literally what I said. I was like, everyone is so smart and everyone is like works so hard, and it's really just a game, and I feel so lucky to be here, and this is such a great experience. And all of a sudden I feel like Alex is looking at me like, okay, lady, you lost by like a lot. Why don't you shut it down? And like
I have to say, I don't specifically remember if I got to shake his hand, either at the podium or I don't think in the little group thing, but I see on TV when he comes over and shakes John's hand, but I wish I had that memory, or if I had like stuck it out and been like, "Damn it, come shake my hand." You know, had somebody maybe taken a picture.
Yep. So he said to me, you know, at the end of the game, he said, "Oh, you will go to Giraffe Land." And after the second game, he said, "Well, is there anywhere else you'd like to go?" And I said, "Well, years ago, I saw Rudy Max, a Rudy Maxa special on Budapest, where he went to the hot springs, to the baths." And I said, "I thought that would be really neat." And then Alex starts telling me about this hotel that I have to check in, where they have the hot springs. They're diverted into the hotel, and they have a wave to them, so you can rock in these hot springs in the hotel. And I thought, wow, that is really neat. I wish I could remember what that hotel was. But I got a hotel recommendation from Alex Trebek, and I thought that was pretty cool.
You should email and be like, "Hey, I know we're best friends now. So what was that hotel?
What hotel in Budapest you were telling me about?"
Or you get to the hotel and say, I want the thing where they rock back and forth, and they'll go, "Sure. So what game show is it that you host?" The other thing I'd say, and again, I should be careful speaking ill of those who are not present, but I do remember that either at the podiums or in the little after conversation, Alex did call John a chicken for his betting. So I remember thinking in my head, he's a chicken and I'm his kind of guy. Who's the real winner here? Come on, let's go.
Oh man.
So some comments here on the YouTube chat from Trevor Mahoney regarding sweat. Impressive given how cold that studio is.
I did not feel that way.
Yeah, it might be cold in the stands. It is not cold at the podium.
No, but even people there for our taping were saying it was cold. I did not feel it. I did not feel it. I was like,
oh.
Well, if
you notice, my whole time I didn't raise my arms a single time because I had my paper towels under and I didn't even have a jacket. So
maybe like the AC broke our day or something.
You know, I understand a little more that business a couple of years ago. I think it was at one of the Republican debates. They had an argument about having the little fan beneath the podium or something. And I'm like, that would have been awesome.
You guys, I used to, when I was like in summer camp, we used to have one of those squeeze breeze things where it's like, you know, the fan and then it spray and it's like a nice aerosol.
Yeah. So also a comment from Bridget McNulty for the uninitiated. Of course, she was introduced a few months back on the show as an analytical chemist, and she obviously has noticed your necklace, Melanie, because she said you must be a fan of caffeine.
Yeah. Yeah, yay! Yep, caffeine.
I was looking at that. I'm like, is that supposed to be like the steering wheel for a ship, or is that a?
No, it's caffeine.
It's the caffeine molecule, by the looks of it. So
it was part of another awesome Justin Hepler husband gift. It was this, and then like a lot of coffee, and like a Christmas ornament full of coffee beans, and I think like a dictionary print of coffee. We like food and drinks in this house, apparently. Like that's our shtick, I guess.
Are you reworking the thing? Is it like there's the coffee anniversary and then the donut anniversary and then
every anniversary is the donut anniversary in my mind.
So the online test is coming up tomorrow. Tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. Do you guys have any tips for last-minute tips for anyone writing the test this week?
I'd say just take it and see how it goes.
They're writing it, they're in trouble.
I took mine getting my hair cut. So, you know.
Yeah, relaxing.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems obvious, but relaxing is a big key. I think, so I took the test and I had my audition, and honestly, after my audition, I thought my eligibility period had elapsed. So I took the online test again in, I guess it would have been October of last year. And I'm not sure if that somehow factored into how I got the call or what have you, but I think I definitely made the point of trying to relax, not think about it carrying significance. I played a little trivia game on my phone, like I think a trivia crack or something like that, for about 5 minutes beforehand as a warm-up, but didn't really get as into it. I also recorded myself taking the test so that I could score it later and see how I did.
Yeah.
Which might have been helpful only in the sense that it meant I didn't have to think about it at the time. I didn't have to think about how am I doing? Am I doing okay? Am I bombing it? Whatever. It's like, okay, whatever that is, like I'll figure that out later. If there's something and I'm going, I should have had that, I just, rolled on through it. Definitely don't let that sidetrack you. You're probably going to make some mistakes, but so will most people.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely helped.
They'll have the test again. I mean, I auditioned twice before I got called for the show. So
I had 2 online, 2 in person before, and it was a year between my online test and the in-person audition the second time, and then a year between the audition and getting the call. Almost.
Yeah, I mean, I've taken the online test about 8 times, and so finally got the call. So it's, just keep trying it. I mean,
yeah,
I can tell myself the first one I didn't do that well, but then after you know what to expect the first time, do it again, and you start, and just watching the show and knowing what they asked, you start to get better.
I did an audition when I was in high school for the teen tournament, and at that time it was a little bit of a different process. There was no online anything, but I basically felt like I cruised through the written test, so forth. I did well playing the game, and then they got to the portion where they basically said, "So tell us about yourself," and I completely froze up, thinking, "Well, I didn't study for that. Like I have no idea how to handle that," and I feel like that must have worked against me, because they ended up selecting somebody who was the one person I would have said they never would have picked. We were all dressed, nicely. He showed up in like ripped jeans and a t-shirt and whatever. It wasn't pretty. I don't know what he did on the written test. He wasn't particularly impressive in the gameplay, but he did get picked, and he ended up winning the tournament that year. So when I went to the next one, I was like, yeah, I don't know. The written test will be what it'll be, but when I get up there, like, it's going to be my time to shine. I'm going to have the full-on, personable, talkative, outgoing, which it's not me, but it's just sort of one of those things that you have to say it's okay to be that and talk about yourself and be colorful. And even in the gameplay simulation, I think the very first question they asked, and I was in the very first group that they invited up, which I did not want to be. I wanted to watch it, get a feel for it. But I was up there, and the first question they asked was something that had to do with a church, and it was like I words. And it was icon, and I remember thinking, I think it might be icon, and I let it go, and they announced it. And then I thought, like, you think you're going to get on the show by knowing the answer in your head and not buzzing in? Like, guns firing, man, let it rip. So from there on out, I definitely cut loose, and I didn't know how that. I remember during the almost 2 years between when I did that audition and when I got the call, I kept thinking, if I'd gotten icon, would I have gotten a call by now? Like, is that the question that's going to keep me off the show? And so when they called, I assumed it was to get another audition. So when they said they were actually booking me, I was surprised. And I asked, not sure who it was now, but I said, isn't it, 18 months or something was the eligibility period? And rather than say, well, maybe I'm counting it wrong, they just said, well, usually that's the case, but sometimes for people we really like, we hang on to them a little bit longer. I was like, that sounds like it could be an explanation, but I am not going to go. A great experience, so don't look the gift horse in the mouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a whirlwind thing, except for then that, 2 years where you're waiting and wondering if it's going to ring. And I remember going, so are we in, the dregs now? Like, they're nearing the end of the season? Are we, But I don't think so. I thought I was struck by how evenly matched we seemed to be. And I think the fact we had nobody that didn't make it to final, overall, I thought our games were pretty well matched. So I don't know if they have an eye for how that's going to go, and they try to pick people that are evenly matched. I read about some of the older processes where, the older versions of the show, they would get somebody and they would kind of rank all these contestants, and then it's like when somebody would win, then they would try to pull in increasingly stronger contestants until they found somebody that could beat them. And then at a certain point, they would reset the whole thing with their lower rung again. So I have no idea how they do it, but those are questions I said maybe I don't want to know the answers to. The important thing is once you get there, make the most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the one thing I have to say with the whole, first of all, just take the online test. Like the online test, like what's the worst that can happen? Like you take it and then it's just like a fun, however long you did a typing an answer and you don't get called, who cares? Like then take it again the next time. It's fun. If you like trivia, then it'll be fun, you know? And in terms of worrying about it or preparing for it or anything like that, you know, for all the Jeopardy stuff, I think that there's some stuff that everyone knows you need to know, right? Like basics about the presidents, capitals, Shakespeare, right? Like, you know, the Dickens is good to know, you know the standards, but man, like there was no way, and this sort of helped with the regret after mine. I was like, you know what? I could have had my binders I could have had 10 more binders and never in a million years would I put in a section for Barbra Streisand duets, right? Like, what are you gonna do? I knew Billy Joel because I'm from Long Island. Like, how was I not gonna know Billy Joel? And my favorite story again afterwards is that in the first round, there was a name the main vegetable, right, category for us, and I didn't know moussaka or succotash. I had no idea. I had put all of my other life projects on hold once I got the call. Like, I gotta memorize all the presidents, gotta memorize all Shakespeare, I memorized every single goddamn world capital. I knew every world capital. None of it came up. Main vegetable did. I put all my projects on hold to like cram everything into my brain. Mm-hmm. Finally, 2 or 3 weeks after we film, I'm like, I'm going to get back to my life. I'm going to get back to doing this other stuff. I go to organize my recipe binder, which is another project of my life. And what do you know? I have recipes for moussaka and succotash in there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if someone had told me that I would have done better preparing by organizing my recipe binder than by learning all the capitals of the entire world, who knew? Yeah. So, you can't worry too much about like, I don't know this, I don't know that. Like there was all the stuff I was going to learn before, like, whatever. Like you can't.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's been a change in the show or just something that I've noticed, but it seems like there are a lot more of these like contextual things or stuff that's not just like standard, you know, obvious question and answer category type things, but more of these random, you know, I don't know how to describe it, but something that the kinds of things you're not going to study for, right? There's more wordplay, there's more, or it seems that way. So stuff that's not really well suited to be studying for. So I'm not going to tell people not to study, but I think when I did some of my stuff, I did like some, you know, electronic flashcard things and that sort of deal. It just seemed like it was kind of pointless, honestly, for the most part, because I realized like what I'm gaining out of this, even if I can figure out how to always study things that I don't know, but I can know, rather than things that are completely out of my domain or things I already know. It's so incremental compared to the body of knowledge that I already have. You wouldn't be in this position if you didn't have that knowledge. It really wasn't worth, you know, beyond maybe a few basic things. If you want to brush up on something, brush up on it, if just so you don't have the regret if it happens to come up later. But nothing that I would have studied came up. I don't think I lost because I didn't know enough things. I lost because of buzzer and luck and so forth. So if anything, try to think about how you operate and understand yourself and say, how do I maximize my ability to access the knowledge in my head? So how am I to be relaxed, to be confident, to be, you know, if you need a warm-up, be a warm-up. If you need to be up for that, if you need to be, you know, whatever calibration. But basically, like, your brain is kind of your engine and your meal ticket for this sort of thing. So just figure out how to have it running in tip-top shape, and then, you know, whatever you're going to get, you're going to get. There's chance involved in the game if you ever get there. There's chance involved in every stage of getting to it. So at some point, you just have to say, let me do what I can do and not let all the other stuff, you know, cloud your mind.
Take the online test.
Yeah, for sure.
Have fun.
Yes.
Oh, meet people. And if you make it to the in-person auditions, and then again, if you make it to the show, write down people's names, meet people. Other people are like the best people. Other people who like trivia, like, when are you going to meet better people?
I love the fact that we bonded as contestants. I regret the fact that I didn't take better note of the people that I tried out with. So, I mean, there were a few that stood out. Like, I figured out that I actually auditioned with Fred Vaughn.
Oh, wow.
And I remember, in fact, oddly, I remembered he and I were talking. We connected on Facebook the other day. I remembered some little details about his tryout that, frankly, if I were him, I would have thought it was a little bit creepy. But it's like, yeah, you were in that room. We were in that room in that hotel like 2 years ago, and and then I kind of go, well, who else was in there, and how many of them have been on the program, and I wish I had made more of those kind of connections. I don't think anybody. We didn't have a Melanie. I think it was 18 guys and no women in that room, so maybe that was part of the problem. But there was no impetus to have that kind of bonding. But knowing what I know now, and how great our little group of 11, give or take, has turned out to be, I wish I had more of that. So.
I went around that afternoon in the green room when we filmed, and I made everyone write down their names on a piece of paper. And like most people looked at me like I was crazy, and I was like, "I'm gonna find you all on Facebook." And then they were like, "All right." Mm-hmm. But then
I had 3 names.
But then I kept hearing from people like, "Man, I wish I remembered the names of the people that I like that were there because I want to connect with them." I was like, "See." So.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember the names of the people that were with us but didn't film. And I was trying to look like that carried over to the next day. I assume they carried over.
That Pringle was one. I couldn't remember who the other one was.
And I'm looking at them and going, do I recognize these people? I don't know. This is kind of sad, but yeah.
Well, I was able to pick them out of the lineup once they showed it, because I remembered Megan being really fast on that buzzer in the warm up and thinking, boy, I hope I don't have to play with her.
Megan, I remember that. She got that, I think, was it PT 109? There was like a question when we were practicing in the green room. I don't know. There was some question about that I had no idea. And she answered it like it was like the easiest thing in the world. And I was like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
I think we all had some of those kind of moments. And that's kind of what's cool, is to realize that people that you had those reactions to probably had some of those reactions to you. And that's
I didn't realize that my binders were that intimidating.
It's not just that you had the binders, but just like, well, what were you guys going to do at the time? You just pulled it out as and I was like, wow. I had thought maybe I'll look up some stuff on the shuttle on the way over, and then once we started talking, I abandoned that, and I was like, okay, I thought I was being like, going to the last minute. So the binders thing was definitely, I don't know, maybe I was the only one that got that reaction.
I was always the person where like my parents would bring me to a hockey game when we were growing up, and like I would bring an entire shopping bag full of books, like just in case I finished 15 of them and needed a 16th. So like I have like 5 books in my bag at any given time. So I kind of just always bring like too much reading material everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
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 But it was good. I think my takeaway was and whether it was deliberate or just maybe a defense mechanism thing, idea of, okay, being chatty and being funny and whatever, it's like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen on the show, but I'm going to try to win the green room at least. Or at least, be fun and memorable and whatever, and enjoy it, right? There was part of that sense of these are bright, clever people, and so, who knows what's going to happen when they ask the questions. But if I think of something that I think is witty and funny, I'm going to say it, because if nothing else, I'll find out whether it really was witty or funny in this room. So.
All I know is that when I connected with Daniel afterwards, might be what, but when I connected with Daniel afterwards and I was like, hi, it was this week because I hadn't remembered his last name until the lineup got posted, because I hadn't gotten his name written down. And so I was like, hi, I don't know if you remember me because it's been 3 months, but like we filmed during the same week. And his only message back to me was like, how could I forget? Your perspiration was like the most memorable thing of the morning. I was like, at least I make an impression. Yeah. So Sam, I think that we did win the green room, if for only for memorability.
Yeah, apparently so. So and at this point, I'll take it, right? Money may come and go. None of us are on the show anymore, but
if nothing else, we sweat profusely and forget Back to the Future and Ninja Turtles at crucial moments.
We got away with it, right? Because everybody says we look great and they're not seeing it. So it's made for a great story.
Well, was there anything that you thought I'd bring up tonight but didn't, or anything else you'd like to ask anyone else on the panel?
I'll say just a quick thing to the panel, and this is sort of an insider thing. You'll see it soon enough, but in an attempt to grasp kind of the last of our 15 minutes of fame, I was browsing the Jeopardy website last night to figure out when they were going to change over the contestant pictures. You know, it was still this week's contestants, and every time I would load it, it would lead with Ragavan. I'm like, okay, we're still good, right? And so it turns out it was midnight Pacific, so 2 a.m. my time before they switched it over. But somewhere in there, something weird went on with my computer, and I've got a set of pictures that you're going to have to see because it's kind of interesting. The names and pictures somehow got switched around, so I have a set of pictures of all of us with different names superimposed on them.
Cool,
so
That'll be interesting.
Now that Tanya's created this little group conversation for us, like I'm gonna have to throw them out. I was trying to figure out how to distribute them, but I think that's where they'll go. So I'll save the suspense of who turned out to be whom, but they were entertaining. So
Okay, so yeah, that sounds. I almost kind of want to know myself. So somebody may have to share it with me too.
I'm not. I'll say if anybody ever calls me Tanya, I'll know why. And Melanie is one of the whiter Ragavans you're ever going to run across.
Oh my.
That's good. Ragavan's a cool dude, so I'll take it. I'll be Ragavan. I'll sub in.
Yeah, you could do worse.
So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me on live panel tonight. The discussion was excellent, and I certainly really enjoyed it. This was certainly one of my favorite panels. So thank you very much, and I hope that everyone also had fun watching us tonight. So thank you.
Jazzy.
Thank you.
Now.
And if you're writing the online test this week, I want to wish you the best of luck, and let's hope that you do get an audition from if you're writing and that sort of thing. So for everyone here at hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel and the JeopardyFan.com, thank you very much for tuning in, and good luck on the test this week. Thanks to my panel. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.